the 8th day of the month of Cheshvan, and we are holding by the top of Nun Beis Amud Beis, where the Gemara has been discussing the halacha of Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah, that it is a chiv to get rid of, to burn the parish of Shvius once it is no longer available in the fields. And apropos of that discussion, the Gemara continues at the top of Daf Nun Beis Amud Beis with a brisa. The brisa tells us as follows: Tanan Hasam. We learned there. The brisa tells us Tanan Hasam Shalosh Aratzos Lebir, that there are three separate areas when it comes to Bir Chametz. You have Yehuda ve'Ever HaYarden ve'Galil, the area of Yehuda. That's today what we refer to as Yehuda v'Shomron. That area, although Shomron already had no Jews in it in the days of the Mishnah, Shomron was the capital of the area of Malchus Yisrael, but the area of Yehuda that contains Jerusalem, ve'Ever HaYarden, and the other side of the Yarden, the area of Transjordan, ve'Galil, and the north of the country, the area of the Galil. And then says the rest of and in each of these places there are three different divisions. In addition to that, meaning that there are three general areas, and then there are three areas within those areas. So then, why did you tell me that there's three areas of Eretz Yisrael when it comes to beer, when it comes to destroying the Parish Shavias? Is that while it's true that there are three areas within each of those areas, the halacha was until the fruit is finished in that area. Meaning, even if you had in each of those areas you had mountains and you had plains and you had valleys, so even if they were only available in the mountains and you lived in the valley, you would be able to eat in the valley if you were still in Yehuda. And the same if you were in the Galil, and the same if you were in Ever HaYarden, meaning that even if it wasn't accessible in one of the other geographic zones of your zone, you'd be able to keep on eating as long as you were within that area. Says the Gemara, how do you know such a din? Amar Rav Chama bar Ukva says Rav Chama bar Ukva. Amar Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina says Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina. Amar Kro, the pasuk tells us, for the animals, and that's domesticated animals, the chaya is wild animals, that are within your land. For as long as there is wild animals that are able to eat in your field, you can feed the Shemitah produce to your animals, to your domesticated animals at home. Once it is finished for the chaya, that's in the field, then it is finished for your animals, domesticated animals at home as well, meaning you have to destroy your Shemitah produce there as well. Says the Gemara Ugmiri, and we learn it as halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That's Gmiri, meaning we don't have it as a pasuk, but our tradition is we have a tradition that the chayas in Yehuda only are able to eat from the produce in Yehuda. That the wild animals in Yehuda cannot eat from the fruit trees in the Galil, and the chayas that are in the Galil cannot live on the Paris in Yehuda. Meaning, we have that as a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. The Sar Senesia points out that the conditions in each of these places are suited for the animals of those places. Meaning, those animals need the food from those places, and that's how we know that the pasuk so it means in the specific lands that those animals need. Tana Rabbanan, the Brisa says as follows: what if you have produce that leaves Eretz Yisrael? Meaning, you have produce. We saw this before with the discussion of Rabbi Yehuda. So, what is the din? Says the Brisa, you can destroy them wherever they are. Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar disagrees. He says, you have to bring them back to Eretz Yisrael and destroy them there. Mishum shenemar, because the pasuk tells us, be'artech, in your land. Because in your land, the mitzvah of biur, of of Perish Shvius has to be in Eretz Yisrael. Ba'artzecha. Says the Gemara, hold on a second. We just learned that pasuk. That pasuk told us, the pasuk told us, v'livhemtecha, v'lechaya asher ba'artzecha. For your domesticated animals and your wild animals that are in your land, we learned that there are 3 different areas of Eretz Yisrael, and that the dinim would be local to each of those locales. How do you learn the word ba'artzecha to tell you this additional din, Rabbi Shimon Elazar? Afekte, you have already used it. You've already made a drasha from that pasuk. Says the Gemara. Now, how does Rabbi Shimon Elazar learn? Kari Bey, you read the pasuk both as ba'aretz and ba'artzecha. The pasuk could easily have said ba'aretz, in the land. What does ba'artzecha mean? In your land. That tells you something additional, meaning there is the land, that there are different areas of the land, and ba'artzecha in your land means that you would have to come back to Eretz Yisrael to burn your Perish Shvius. Inami, alternatively, there's another way of reading a drush into this pasuk. Pasuk says, ba'artzecha me. So the pasuk says, me asher ba'artzecha. The fact that it says asher ba'artzecha, the pasuk could well have said v'limtecha v'lechaya be'artzecha. What is asher ba'artzecha? That is in your land. That additional word, that me'asher ba'artzecha, you can learn that to teach you the din that you have to go back to Eretz Yisrael to burn your Perish Shvius. Rav Safra nafak me'eretz Yisrael l'chutz haaretz. Now says the Gemara, we're going to tell a story. Rav Safra left Eretz Yisrael and he went to chutz haaretz. Have b'hadei garbe dechamra, and he had with him a garbe dechamra. He had a jug of wine of wine of Shvius. The Shvius. Lo b'hadei Rav Huna b'rei the Rav Ika b'Rav Kana. Coming along with him was Rav Huna, the son of Rav Ika, and Rav Kana. Amarlo, he said to them, Ika deshmiya le mine de Rabbi Abau halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar or like. Have any of you guys heard from Rabbi Abau whether or not we paskin like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar? I mean, we know the machlokes. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar holds that I would have to get rid of this by going back to Eretz Yisrael now. Do I turn back now or do I not? Meaning, what did Rabbi Abau say about this? Marle, they said to him, Marle Rav Kana said to him, Hachi Amar Rabbi Abau, so said Rabbi Abau, Halach Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, the halacha is like Shimon ben Elazar, better pack up and start moving back. Marle Rav Huna, Bered Rav Ika, Rav Huna, Bered Rav Ika says, Hachi Amar Rabbi Abau, so says Rabbi Abau, ain't halacha Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The halacha is not like Shimon ben Elazar. I mean, which one is it? Is it like it or is it not? Amar Rav Safra. Rav Safra said back to them, Nekait haklala de Rav Huna biyadach. You should maintain this principle that Rav Huna taught. The Daik V'Gamar, that he held, the Daik V'Gamar, that he was very medactic, he was very careful. V'Gamar, Shmatza Mipume de Rabbe, that he learned the halacha from his Rabbi, Karachva de Pumbedisa, with the same meticulousness as the Amora Rachva in Pumbedisa. It was well known, Rachva in Pumbedisa was well known to be an incredible medactic. So he says Rav Safra, we're going to hold like Rav Huna. We're going to hold like Rav Huna, and we're not going to hold, like Rav Kahana. We're going to hold like Rav Huna, because Rav Huna was a bigger medactic. And he's just like Rachva. The Amar Rachva, Amar Rav Yehuda said Rachva in the name of Rav Yehuda. Har Habayis. This is the discussion of the Mishnayos and the Gemara at the beginning of Maseches Tamid. Har Habayis stav kofel haya stav lifnim mistav. That Har Habayis had a stav. What's the stav? Stav kofel haya stav lifnim mistav. That it was two colonnades, meaning they had columns going around Har Habayis, and there were 2 rows of them. And there was an awning, roof-ish kind of thing that went over the top of it. It was a stav kofel. And he said this as opposed to using the lashon that the other Tanaim and Amoraim used, which was itztava. Itztava was the Roman, Greco-Roman way of referring to the same style, but he would say it medactic. He was medactic to say, not the easy way of saying it, to say it's an itztava. He would say, stav kofel haya stav livnim mistav. He used a lot more words to be much more medaic, because that is how his Rebbe said it. So when Rav Yosef heard about this, that Rav Safra was not going back to burn his Shemitah wine, to get rid of his Shemitah wine, because he was going to pass him like Rav Huna's version of Rabbi Abahu. So on that, Rav Yosef said, "Kari alei Rav Yosef." He made a pun in the pasuk. He said the pasuk says in Hosea in the 4th parak, "Ami be'itzai yishal umakloi yagid loi." The pasuk says, "My nation is asking counsel umakloi and makloi and the makel, the stick, yagid loi will tell them," meaning the person that's in charge is the guy with the makel. So he said, "Kol ha-makel loi magid loi." He made a pun on the word makel, stick, as being makel, lenient. Kol ha-makel loi magid loi. Everybody's looking for a kula, and that's why he was more than happy to pass like Rav Huna and say he was the greater medaktek. Nevertheless, says the Gemara, Rabbi Eloi Katz Kaf Kafniyasa de Shvius. Rabbi Eloi cut down a kafniyasa. A kafniyasa is a date tree, but it is unripe dates, meaning kapos tamarim, but that's a kafniyasa of palm fronds. It's a kaf. So he cut down an unripe date tree in the middle of Shvi'is, in the middle of Shemitah. So how could he do such a thing? Says the Gemara, what's the problem? La'ochla, Amar Rachman, the pasuk says that you have to leave everything in the field la'ochla, to be eaten. V'lo lehefsed, you're not allowed to destroy Paris Shvi'is, meaning you're not allowed to destroy a Shemitah tree. V'chi teima, and if you want to say, hanimili heicha denachid leperi, maybe you want to say that you are only forbidden from destroying anything that is any fruit on Shvi'is once it already becomes fruit. But once it's not yet produce, no. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avua, says Rav Nachman, in the name of Rabba bar Avua, Hani matchali de orla. These matchali de orla. That's these orla dates, these beginnings of dates that are orla asiri. They are aser. Havanasu shomim lepiri, because they are the shomim of the fruit, meaning these rinds, before you have any fruit in them, you have like a little bit of something. So they are already also because of orla, because they are the beginnings of the fruit, meaning they're tafel to the fruit. They are accessories to fruit. Says the Gemara, b'shomer lepiri emes havi. What stage are you going to say that these are called shomer lepiri? That these things are, that these are like shells or protection for the fruit. So we say bekufre. Bekufre means when they're still very young. When they're still very young, v'kakarile piri, and we say that they're still fruit. So Rav Nachman Amar Rav Yossi. Now Rav Nachman was holding on Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says smadar aser b'bnei shu piri uplige rabban alei. Rav Yossi was the one that said that smadar, that's very unripe grapes. That's the very, very beginning of grapes. It's called smadar. They're not, you can't use them for anything yet, but they're also already b'bnei shu piri because they're already considered fruit. Uplige rabban alei. The rabbanan disagreed with him. The Rabbanan disagreed. Says the Gemara, Maskif la Rav Simon Arda. Rav Simon Arda was very upset about this. It says, Mi pliga Rabbanan le Rav Yossi b'shar ilanas. It's true that there's machlekes with grapes, but we're talking about a date palm here. And it is really true that the other Chacham disagreed with Rabbi Yossi with the rest of the trees. V'hatnan, didn't we learn? At what point in time are you not allowed to cut down your Shemitah trees? So Beis Shammai says that Beis Shammai says in all trees, it means mishi yotziu. Beis Shammai says at the stage where the blossoms start falling off, and the fruit begins to emerge, meaning the very beginning of fruit. Once it goes from blossoms to buds. Beis Hillel says hacharuvim mi yesharshiru v'gefanim. Turning over the page, mi she yigareu v'azesim mi she yanetzu shalkol elanus mi she yotziu. It says Beis Hillel, it becomes fruit dependent. With the carob trees, you can't chop them down once they have chains of carobs, where you see the chains forming. The gevanim, the grapevines, when the grapes are look like little seeds, like kernels. With olives, it's from the point in time that they are blossoming, and with regards to other trees, it's when they produce fruit. So Va'amar Rav Asi says, Rav Asi, who boiser. That's called boiser. Boiser is very unripe. V'hu gerua, and it's v'hu gerua. That's called the gerua of the Mishnah. V'hu pal halavan. It looks like a little white bean. Says the Gemara, pal halavan. Like, you really think it's a white bean? Ela ema shi'uroi pal halavan. It's not. It doesn't look like a white bean. It is the size of a white bean. Meaning that what we are saying is that it seems to be that Beis Hillel defined what stages of each of the trees there is going to be a beginning of the fruit, and we are challenging Rabbi Yossi. We are challenging Rasim Bar Nahada is challenging the way that. The way that the Gemara has so far explained, Rav Nachman had explained that we are going according to Rabbi Yossi, and Rasim Narada says it doesn't seem to make sense. But as Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with this discussion at the top of Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. Hashem Yisbarach tomorrow, and everybody should have a wonderful day.